Kuzangpo and welcome to the panel. Tonight we will discuss on the framework that deals with the mainstreaming of environment, climate change and poverty, which concerns into the 11th five-year plan. And to discuss further on this, we have a panelist, Mr. Sering Chofel from Department of Local Governance, and we have Mr. Karma Jamsu in the center from JNSC, and we have Mr. Tashidoji from UNDP. So if you could give your perspectives from each of the individual organization on how do we see this framework, Asla?
I think at the outset I must clarify that ECP mainstreaming is not at all a new concept. It doesn't mean that you have not been mainstreaming environment into our development plans so far. But what we are trying to do beginning 11th five-year plan is to reinforce the idea of taking care of mainstreaming environment into all the development activities. If I may go directly to the local government perspective, whatever development plans and activities we initiate, it is practically done at the local level, meaning it's done at the level of Zongkaks and the Geoks. So what we're trying to do through this process is to sensitize and make the local government functionaries, the key people involved in the development activities, aware of the importance of environment and the risk that is seen on the environment degradation, which will further lead to climate change and ultimately to the poverty. So what we are trying to basically say is when you conceive a development activity, try not to only think from the point of the direct benefits that you get out of a development activity, for example, farm road. And if you are proposing to construct a farm road, think about how much the trees would be felled down, how much it would lead to the drying up of water resources, and similarly the degradation, the impact on the animals and the ecology in general that would be impacted as a result of. So what we're basically trying to say is to, by mainstreaming, we mean to say just incorporate inclusively, being mindful of the linkage, inherent linkage between the environment, poverty and the climate change.
Okay. How about from the policy perspective?
We are responsible for policy formulation in the sense there are many policies being proposed by sectors as well as by other, different organizations. So, and besides, JNSC is also responsible for coordination of developmental plans and programs, be it five-year plans and programs, or be it annual plans and programs. So, so through mainstreaming of this environment, climate change, and poverty concern into all this in policies, plans, and programs, we, the JNSC Commission, in coordination with all the government partners, agencies, and also with the developmental partners, we want to change, bring about this change in the planning process. We want to ensure that from the 11th five-year plan onwards, we would like all the government agencies, including local governments, to ensure that these concerns, and also not only the concerns but also the opportunities of environment, climate change, and poverty are taken into consideration during the early stages of planning process, and then incorporate these concerns in every stage of planning process and reflect it clearly in their monitoring and evaluation framework, so that these concerns, these are not looked at, this environment, climate change, and poverty are not looked at sectorally, especially environment is not looked at sectorally, and is not considered as sector. It is not considered as a role and responsibility of a Ministry of Environment or a environment agency alone, but as a responsibility of all sectors, because it cross-cuts across all sectors, and it impacts positively or negatively everyone. So therefore, to ensure that these are incorporated and taken on board by all sectors, we would like to see it, JNSC would like to promote that and ensure to strengthen the capacity systems process of the government, so that it facilitates that these concerns are taken on board during policy formulation, during plan formulation, and program formulation.
And how about Mr. Tishdoj, you representing the development partners, how do you see this framework, Asla?
Okay, just before really going into the framework, I might talk from the development partners perspective to what has led to this the development of this framework. So maybe I think uh, environment, climate change, and poverty mainstream. When we talk of this, we really mean that we're trying to at least looking at the integration of the contribution of environment to human well-being, pro economic growth and achievement of the Millennium Development Goals in the core business of government, overall national development and poverty reduction strategies, and sector and subnational planning and investment. So, which I feel is very much in sync with our the gross national happiness philosophy. So, this is what actually we are trying to aim for. And then this is basically also trying to change the mindset of the decision makers and the implementers, implementing agencies. So we need to consider environment as a cross-cutting issue, because the mismanagement environment will have an impact across all the sectors, all the development sectors. So we need to look environment as an opportunity, but also at the same time considering its limit to growth. Because if we keep on unsustainably go on unsustainable utilization of natural resources, then at the we would land up having a lot of impact. So this is what actually we are trying to do. And then the people's perception, actually trying to change the mindset of the people, like the development versus environment, like environment or development, I think. But through this mainstreaming process, what we are trying to do is look at environment for development. So environment has to be considered as part of the development. So this is what actually we are trying to do. And then to speak from UN's perspective, we have started this mainstream process. Of course, there is an enabling environment within the government policy, plans and programs, but still, the formal process, the mainstream process, we have initiated this through our joint UNDP and United Nations Environment Program, which is called as the Poverty Environment Initiative. So this is a global program, and Bhutan is one of the first country in the Asia Pacific countries to implement this Poverty Environment Initiative program. So we have 5 active programs in the Asia Pacific region. So Bhutan is one of the first countries to implement this. And then actually through this program we are trying to look at support the country-led efforts to mainstream poverty environment linkages into national development planning, from policy, as my colleague Karma has highlighted, from policy making to budgeting, implementation and monitoring. And we do follow a 3 the process, actually 3 phases. Like first phase, the phase 1, we do look at finding the entry points, because we need to look at the institutional and the political context, and also we need to find the champions, both at the individual and at the organizational level. So who could really take this mainstreaming forward. And then the second point we are looking at is like mainstream poverty environment linkages into policy processes. So this is, in this case, we do look at how we can to really find the use the instruments like application of economic, ecological and social assessment tools, like for example the public environment expenditure review, which the government of Bhutan has done. 2 PR has been completed. And we also will look at the ecosystem assessment to really find out the linkages, as my colleague Srini has also pointed out. We need to find the linkages and show the evidence that need to put up a very convincing case to the policy makers that okay, there is a very strong linkages. We will also talk this in the later stage. And then the third the component comprises of the meeting the implementation challenges. So this is where we try now really integrate this into the this is the framework. I think this is one area where we already found out the entry point, and through the 11th the 5-year planning processes. So this is one area we're trying to this at the implementation stage, and then also link this to the monitoring aspects, how we can translate this into the program, and then put this into the national monitoring evaluation systems framework. So yeah, thanks.
Okay. What was quite interesting in this framework was there you have something called 6 steps processes. I think it was developed in close collaboration among the reference group member here, which 3 of you are. So if you would like to touch upon those processes, maybe very briefly if you could like to explain more on those processes.
Yes, maybe if I can start.
Yes.
We did come up with this process steps mainly because we no people now at the implementation level and at the policy level. So we do understand now there is a recognition that environment has to be integrated into the development planning and the policy processes. But then the how part, I think that is missing, and people are at the implementation level also they are quite lost. So we actually thought of that's why we came up with this, at least to look at, okay, like for example this sixth process, we look at the key pressures within the sectors. Like for example the Ministry of Works and Human Certain, what are the key pressures under that sector, because they deal with their mandate is to look at the development of the roads. So in the process of construction of roads, so what are the pressures they could see in terms which will have an impact on the environment. So we look at find out the pressures, and then we also look at the trends. Okay, what are the trends, look at the data, what are the available data, and then find out the alternate opportunities. Okay, what could we do better, like how can we do construct a road in a very environment friendly manner. So I think this we look at the alternative options, and then what are the benefits if we do this. Of course in the short term we may incur high costs, but then in the long term there are a lot of benefits. We do see in terms of, I think by 20%, I'm not very clear, but 20% on the maintenance cost. So I think this is the benefits that we
For
would
instance,
incur,
in the road
we would
construction.
incur. And then once we identify this as a program, then we have also because now the government is in the process of formulating the 11th five-year plan. So we have linked this to the national key and the sectoral key result areas, and then also the monitoring evaluation indicator, what sort of indicator they would come up with, because ultimately at the end of the day what is important for us is to really see, okay, whatever alternate options that we have come up with, whether that made an impact through we need to monitor, because we need to put in place a strong M&E framework, monitoring evaluation framework. So this is how we looked at measuring through the indicator by establishing very reliable and relevant indicators.
Okay. How about the JNHC as an implementing body there? How do you see this framework
So
and this?
I think this framework to I see as JNSC, I see that it will prove there are a whole host of options and alternatives and examples provided there for smarter development. If we given that there is enough sensitization and awareness on this, which is still ongoing at the moment. We are continuing providing awareness, sensitization, familiarizing the government agencies and local governments on this. So given that we see that this will prove quite useful if they, but again implementing, materializing the alternative options, if the government agencies ever take it up in their future plans, to do it would also mean certain inputs, skills, engineering skills, engineering know-how, because some are quite technical.
Okay.
These are the options. Alternatives are to not only contribute to mainstreaming, but also ensure that how our plans can be proper, eco-friendly, energy efficient, cost efficient, how we can adopt energy reducing technologies and this kind of thing. But having said that, and having put it in the framework for use by the local governments or by the central agencies, ultimately what we need is an engineering capacity to do that. So that would again, this is also some challenge for us. We have to continue building capacity so that in future slowly we will move towards proper, eco-efficient, greener development. So engineering capacities are also needed besides what we have here in the country. So, but having said that, the process steps have been now from the GNSC side in consultation with the sectors and also with the government's blessing, we have put it in the it's incorporated in the five-year plan guidelines, simple process steps to help the government agencies and other organizations to mainstream in
But
the
there's
plans.
no guarantee the whole of these options will be implemented in the 10th five-year plan, right?
Yes, these are options and alternatives that we have worked out, possible options and alternatives that we have worked out not only by the task force alone, but this was worked out in close consultation with all relevant stakeholders. So these are some of the options, but as a nation and as a government, we still have some capacity constraint,
Okay.
especially engineering capacity. We are really doing well in terms of, for example, environment conservation, environment protection. But there are a whole host of things that we need to do for greener development, towards greener economy. So we would need a whole host of capacity
Building.
and that needs to be built in our government functionaries, government staff, be it elected or be it civil public servants, civil servants. So the continuous capacity building is also needed. So mainstreaming actually it's a continuous process. I think we are not going to achieve mainstreaming in 1 or 2 years or 3 years time, or even for that matter even 5 years time. Mainstreaming should, I think that effort that we put in should go on. That capacity building towards mainstreaming should go on, should continue even beyond 11 5-year plan and it should continue in the 12 5-year plan also. So it's a long term and continuous process. It's a quite a complicated thing, but we are I see that this framework to begin with in the 11 5-year plan will help a lot.
I would like to get back onto the program that the UNDP supported, which is REAP, the Rural Economy Advancement Program, supported under the PEI, Poverty Environment Initiative, during the 10th five-year plan. If you'd like to touch upon maybe some success stories there.
I think this is, we can look at this as one of the instruments that we have used to really to integrate poverty and environment and also finding out the linkages of poverty and environment, through this Rural Economic Advancement Program. But as such, the UNDP and UNEP joint program doesn't support, really the hard component of, providing the interventions. But
Hard
through the
component in the sense?
in terms of really the implementation of the program as such. But what we have done through our phase 1, the Poverty Environment Initiative, is we have supported the GNH Commission, who is the key implementing partner in the assessment of the poorest villages that they have identified in the 10th five-year plan for the targeted poverty intervention. So in the process, what we have looked at is what are the poverty environment linkage, because if you look at the rural population, 69% of the country is rural based, and then they are subsistence farmer dependent on one or the other way on the natural resources. So this is also where I'm trying to bring this the linkages, the poverty and environment. So we actually took that as an entry point to really look at to establish the poverty and environment linkages through this REAP program. So this is how we supported the assessment of the 10 villages, the first the start of this the targeted poverty intervention. In that process, what we found out, not really what GNSC has found out is, the current planning processes, let's take the 10-5 planning process, it goes down, it goes until the GEOC level, and really, it doesn't go till the village level. So this is what they have found out. So because some of the village in the process, some of villages are left out from the mainstream development. So that's why they have found it's important. They've realized that it's important to really go down to the village level and really work out, because because of our the terrain and then the topography, the villages located in different in different areas. So I think that's what the value that they have found out through the REAP process was really preparing, and in the process they've come up with this now framework called Village Development Planning Framework. So which takes into account the planning till the village, the GEOC, let's say the village, village level. So I think this is what has now, and then the from the 10 villages now they have taken up, I think, quite a number of villages, and then also they do have a plan to complete around 116 villages, I think, by the end of the 10th plan, and also will spill over to the 11th plan. This is what we have come to know.
Mr. Srinchaval, I would like to ask you this one. When it comes to the local communities, how aware are they about the issues on climate change and environment in general?
We have done a series of capacity building activities through this project. For example, Department of Local Governance has coordinated to send at least 3 groups for the ex-country training. They were fairly a big group. So the first group comprised of about 21 participants, the mixture of planning officers and GAOs, and then we sent another second batch, purely a group of geochemistry officers, and the recent group was a mixture of Mangmis. Even Mangmis we are trying to. And then besides the ex-country, we have done a series of in-country training workshops and sensitization, and this framework is one of the outputs.
Outputs of the training?
Yes. So one of the substantial activity on ECP mainstreaming, aiming at the capacity building of the local government officials, I would say is the CD grant, which is the capacity development grant. I mean, this project has supported the allocation of a lump sum budgetary support to the local governments. Not all local governments, we had to select pilot local governments. So what this budget support is trying to do is, we don't tell them to do this or that. We just this project just supports allocation of a lump sum budgetary support, and ask the local governments to do a needs assessment, what they need to do to adapt to the climate change or environmental degradation, and they come up with a list of activities and they use this fund. So capacity building is also not done just simply by training and workshops, but we try to build the capacity by learning by doing.
Okay.
So they implement some key pressures, so for example drying up water resources, and if they want to say that they want to build a tank or they want to plant trees around the watershed, so this budget will support this activity. And the requirement is, it is the community members, the main stakeholders that does the whatever activity required. So it's also a learning by doing kind of capacity building program.
I'll put you the last question. Like, do you see this framework helping to create the intention of the government's 11th 5-year plan as a green plan? How do you see that? And maybe you might have an individual response to that.
I would say yes. Actually, the main objective of coming up with this framework is to see that the implementing agencies are facilitated, they helped to formulate the green development plans and programs in the 11th 5-year plan. So this is actually, this goes as a additional guideline to the main 5-year plan, 11th 5-year plan guideline. So in the main plan, as I said, there's just a mention of the need for ECP mainstreaming, and this will actually help them on how to do it. And there's a mention of 6-step process, and also the framework. And if you look at the book, there's a framework mentioning the key ECP, environment, climate change, poverty pressures, why the pressures, and what they need to do. So we are not asking them to follow this mandatorily, but this is going to be a guideline basically.
How about Mr. Karmala?
With the guidance from the royal government, if you look at the 11th 5-year plan guidelines, you will see a lot of environmental outcome. The 11th 5-year plan is based on the 4 pillars of the gross national happiness, and then around that 4 pillars you'll see a lot of environmental outcomes, a lot of climate outcomes, and also natural resource management outcomes, disaster resilience outcomes reflected as a result area to be achieved or to aim for in the 11th 5-year plan. It is clearly reflected there. So it is not that the government or the government agencies local are not able to articulate environment, climate change, poverty issues or not. They are quite now the capacity. If we could fairly say that we have favorable capacity to understand the environment climate change issues that Bhutan is facing and then how those issues will impact the sectoral development plans and programs and how those things should be taken on board. So in that manner, this framework, we have just consolidated whatever has been discussed and whatever the whole partners, the stakeholders came up with. So this will support the 11 5-year plan formulation.
How about Ms. Tashidaji?
Yes, I would very much see this not as a separate document, but still, in line with the 11 5-year plan guideline, and this is very much in line with, definitely promote, 11 5 plan as one of the green plans, so far, and I think this is also to relate, there is an support from the highest level from the Prime Minister. I think he's instructed to all the sectors that the 11 plan should be a green plan, contributing to green economy, and then also this is also in line with our national goals of the constitution and the global compacts. Bhutan has committed to remain carbon neutral in the COP15 in 2009, and then also related to the constitution, Article 5, making us mandating us to maintain at least 60% of the forest cover. So these are very much in line with that, and I would definitely see this contributing to the 11 5 plan. So.
Well, thank you so much. So many layers of questions to be asked, but we'll stop the discussions here. And thank you, our panelists, and thank you for watching this segment of the panel. Good night.